Southern California, welcome to the Dino and Nelson Show, Saturday afternoons from 5 to 6 p.m. and Sunday afternoons at 1 p.m. on Money Radio 1150 AM KTLK. Do you own a home or have plans to in the future? You'll get all the information you need to know about what's happening in the local real estate market and how to take advantage of that knowledge. How to approach home ownership or mortgage financing with design, vision, and focus, as well as accurate information. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing, listen to Real Estate Radio with Dino and Nelson Sunday afternoons at 1 p.m. right here on Money Radio KTLK AM 1150.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dino from the Dino and Nelson Show. This week, we have a great lineup with two powerhouse business people with Nichole Story of Prudential and Mike Salmon of Madison Street Partners.
We're going to explore, this is Nelson. Thanks, Dino, for the intro. Appreciate that. We're going to explore the commercial real estate sector with Mike Salmon and how this segment impacts our economy. And then we're also going to take a look at the residential side with Nichole from Prudential California Realty.
This next segment is brought to you by First Centennial Mortgage, providing market-leading interest rates guaranteed. Text the word REFI to 313131. That's text the word REFI to 313131.
Hey, Dino, we're going to open up with street noise here. You've been watching the Olympics, haven't you?
I have.
And what do you think?
I like it. I was just telling Phil, our producer, that my favorite is men's volleyball.
Men's volleyball.
Love watching men's volleyball.
And you like the indoor or the sand?
I like both, but I love watching indoor just because it's fast-paced, and those guys are just monsters.
Yeah. You didn't play?
I did play.
You did?
I did. I played in high school.
Is that right?
Yep.
Were you tall in high school?
I was 6 foot when I was 12 years old.
And never grew?
And grew 4 more inches after that.
And now you're old enough, you're giving it back.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've been watching the Olympics, and related to real estate, I'm glued to it. I'm watching the Olympics every morning. I'm waking up early. It doesn't look like it. It looks like I always get a full night's rest, but I'm waking up at 4 in the morning and watching the Olympics, and I'm just glued to it. I can't get enough of it. So, but I noticed Inman News was posting that Century 21 is advertising in the Olympics. They have 100 spots that are airing over the 2 weeks, hoping to reach about 200 million people in their audience. And it just struck me that there's very few real estate companies that are actually using TV and radio for that matter, but there are more and more presence.
You know, and that shocks me too, because it's just Century 21 is such a, I guess, an old school company, and they're stepping up big right now.
The gold jackets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope they bring them back though. It wouldn't be the same if they didn't. Gold jackets are where they need to be.
It goes with your pastel pants. Right. Yeah. So Century 21 is in the news, and I'm thinking that we're going to see a lot more real estate radio focusing on the big brokerage firms. The Prudentials and the Remaxes are going to be using radio as a platform to broadcast not only the expansion of their companies in this market, but taking specific listings and marketing those on air.
You know, all mediums are good.
All mediums are good. LA Times was reporting that this is out of their money section. Related to modifications, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are not participating with the write-down of mortgages. And if you recall, when we spoke with Bill Baskin from CDA Law Center, and he was talking about the settlement, the $25 billion settlement, $18 billion of which is targeted for California homeowners. And a lot of the lending community, the majors, are required through that settlement to allow these mortgages to be written down. But Fannie and Freddie are saying, nope, we're not going to do that.
So why? I mean, what causes that? Do you know?
I don't know. Other than the regulators are saying that they feel that they're not required to do that, or the servicers, and that there's other ways, especially with home prices perhaps coming up and allowing people a gateway to sell their properties closer to what they owe, maybe even for what they owe. And they just they're drawing the line in the sand. Now,
are the other banks, like the Bank of America, Wells Fargo's, are they required to do any write-downs?
They are through the settlement, sure. Now, I don't know if they are for Fannie and Freddie loans, but the Fannie and Freddie Mac, as the servicers and owners of their own portfolio of mortgages, are saying no.
Well, I guess that's government at its best, right?
Government at its best. What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, give me, and I won't give back.
Yeah, so you pay your taxes, you want some of it back in return.
Yeah, we'll make everybody else give, but we're not going to give.
I think that's the mindset out there, is especially with the loan modifications, and we've talked a little bit about this, how people feel like it's a right, that they should have their mortgages written down, they should have the interest rates dropped. And there, to a degree, I've said this for many weeks now, I agree with that. But at the same token, when they signed their loan documents, there wasn't any provision for what happens if my property goes down in value. What happens if rates drop and I no longer qualify for a lower interest rate?
I don't think anybody has a right, because like you said, when you signed up to pay this mortgage. So nobody has a right, but it gets difficult when you hear your neighbor got a $200,000 deduction and a lower interest rate, and yet you can't qualify.
And your position, what about me?
What about me?
What about me?
It just doesn't make sense. That's the only issue I have with all these programs is they don't make it fair for everybody. They absolutely pinpoint a certain group maybe, and that's all they give it to. Now,
then in the real estate community, that's called redlining. You think that that's what the government is doing, is just helping a specific segment and leaving other people on the shelf?
I mean, who knows if they're not doing that on purpose, but when they come up with the policy, I don't think they think it out all the way.
Well, and the reason, like the HARP program, for an example, where they're trying to reach out and assist the homeowner and assist the consumer, but there's these log jams where a lot of that type of financing still isn't going through. It's just getting stuck in administrative process. We have examples and heard testimonies of people that applied for HARP financing sometimes 3-4 months ago that are still waiting in line for the transactions to close.
Yeah, absolutely. In case you just jumped in your car, you're listening to the Dino and Nelson Show here on K-Talk, AM 1150, every weekend afternoon. We can be reached at 888-814-3335. That's 888-814-3335 or at dinoandnelson.com.
Couple of quick things that I wanted to touch on. Everybody's obviously focused on their credit score. Is it high? Is it low? How do I restore it? We've got one of our show partners that focuses on repairing people's credit scores. But there's a lot of misperception out there of what really impacts your credit score. And I still find it just as close to genetic decoding as we get trying to understand the whole FICO mechanism. But I had a couple of notes here on 6 surprising things that don't have any impact on your credit. And some people believe that changes in employment, whether you're being moved from full-time to part-time or laid off, that's going to draw their credit scores down. And the reality is it has no impact other than if you choose to or can't pay your bills. But just by fact that your income is changing or your employment is changing, zero impact.
Yeah, zero impact. Never has.
And then another thing, people may not realize this, unlike mortgages that are one of the key things that are reported on your credit score, key impacts on your credit score, if you don't pay your rent, no impact.
Unless, of course, you get sued and there's a judgment on your credit. Impact.
Right.
Big impact.
Right. And I guess to a degree. And the same with not paying your taxes. If you're behind in your taxes, there isn't any negative reporting on your credit score up until it becomes a tax lien.
Right.
But just by nature of being delinquent in your taxes or delinquent in your filing, no impact on credit scores. Get this, late payments with small businesses. Small businesses, and the majority of the small vendors, they don't report.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line, unless the creditor reports to the credit bureaus, nobody knows about it. Nobody. Just like when you owed me money the other day, you didn't pay me. I didn't report it.
Yeah,
it's no big deal.
Yeah, let's not get into that. So get this. There's obviously a lot of the major creditors that, because of the volume of credit that's extended, they're not reporting accurately. And the biggest problem is the consumer. I've used this term before. You love this. The consumer choosing to go ostrich, head in the sand, butt up in the air, hoping it all goes away, and they don't communicate. And there's things that the credit companies can do if you're falling behind in payments. If you're unable to make a payment, they can do things to defer payments and not impact your credit score.
Well, there you go, though. I had a client who, same exact situation, falling a little behind. Creditor called them up, said, "We're gonna help you out. We're gonna cut your payment over the next 4 months, so you can lower your payment and not fall behind." Basically, about 8 months later, they called me up, was trying to do a refinance, pulled their credit. Guess how many lates they had on their credit report?
They showed as late payments, even though
all
I had
4.
Is that right?
All 4.
Yeah.
So if you do take any kind of a deal like that, make sure you ask the qualifying questions because it could end up impacting you significantly more than the extra $80 you save.
And document it in writing. I think the biggest message there is just simply communicate. Don't go dark on your creditors, and there's at least the opportunity to work things out. Let me just touch on rates before we close out this segment. Get this. LA Times, they report Fannie and Freddie, actually interest rates raised on average last week.
Hoo-ha. First time in a long time.
But
come on, you guys. When they raised them, we're talking about like a $20 a month increase in your payment. They're still extremely low.
Do you think it's a trend line, though? Do you think that we've actually bottomed out and this plunge on interest rates that we've been announcing along with everybody else is over?
I think we bottomed out, but I don't think they're going to go sky high anytime soon. I think they're going to stay low for a while. You're listening to Dino and Nelson Show here on K-Talk, AM 1150 every weekend afternoon. We can be reached at 888-814-3335. That's 888-814-3335 or at dinoandnelson.com. We'll be right back after the break.
Are you frustrated with what sounds like all mortgage radio? Record low rates, rates may not be here for long, the biggest brain freeze in the history of mankind, call cash cow now, blah, blah, blah. Call First Centennial Mortgage and speak to Dino and Nelson direct. Guess what? We answer the phone. Market-leading rates that are guaranteed and our close-on-time guarantee. This week's rates plunged again. Our 30-year fixed rates are priced in the mid-threes for conforming loan amounts up to $625,000, and in the remarkable category of jumbo financing, up to $2 million, rates below 4%. Truly exceptional opportunities, guaranteed.
Market-leading rates brought to you by Dino and Nelson from First Centennial Mortgage. They're not a call center. Call today and deal with Dino or Nelson direct at 888-814-3335. 888-814-3335. First Centennial Mortgage. Market-leading rates, guaranteed. Call 888-814-3335 or text the word REFI to 313131. First Centennial Mortgage. NMLS number 132763. All rates subject to change without notice.
In a chaotic real estate market, you want peace of mind when it comes to the home you're purchasing. Roadrunner Exterminating, a family-owned and operated company providing structural repairs, local treatments, and fumigation. Roadrunner Exterminating is a licensed, bonded, and insured expert in termite, pest control, and general contracting. For fast and efficient service, plus the peace of mind of knowing the condition of your new home, call Roadrunner Exterminating at 866-398-BUGS. That's 866-398-BUGS. Or on the web at roadrunnerexterminating.com. As always, mention the Dino and Nelson Show and get a free home inspection. 866-398-BUGS or roadrunnerexterminating.com. General Contractor License 922404. Nominal fee for escrow inspections.
Ever been frustrated during a real estate transaction, wondering just when you'll receive that phone call or status about your title insurance or escrow? With Title 365, consumers like you gain unprecedented access to the status of their title insurance and escrow transactions in real time. Title 365 was created with all the benefits you'd expect, so it's never been easier to download your documents, see what's outstanding, post a question, or connect with all parties online. Ask your realtor, lender, or escrow officer about Title 365 today, or visit Title365.com.
Welcome back to the Dino and Nelson Show here on K-Talk, AM 1150. We can be reached at 888-814-3335. That's 888-814-3335. This next segment, we're bringing on Mike Salmon from Madison Street Partners, brought to you by Title 365, providing instant access and live status to your real estate transactions.
And let me tell you a little bit about Mike. 4-year NFL career with the San Francisco 49ers, is now in the commercial real estate sector. And we're going to study this a little bit more and understand what's taking place, if they're on the downslide, or if they're recognizing recovery on the commercial segment. And then as well, we're going to talk a little bit about his background with football. Was a USC superstar.
Yeah, I know. I want to find out how a meathead gets into real estate, commercial real estate.
Into real estate. You're going to regret that when he palms your head. Yeah. So he was a USC grad, honor student, has one of the coveted national championship rings. You know, I have a background in men's tennis on the collegiate level. I coach at UC Irvine now. I'm chasing one of these rings. Never got one as a player. And on the ride up, what am I fixating on? This beautiful ring that he has on his hand from which championship, Mike?
1993.
And who was it? Who at Rose Bowl? And you beat?
We beat Michigan. And I think our quarterback at the time was a guy named Todd Marinovich.
Todd Marinovich.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a storied history. I bet you have a couple of stories here and there, right?
I have a whole lot of stories about Todd, but he's a very, very good friend, and so I'm going to just hold those.
That's a classic Rose Bowl confrontation, Michigan against USC. I mean, how many games have been played where Michigan was coming to town and either SC or Washington for a number of years knocked them out of the way, but you got your championship by beating them.
Yep.
And you have the Rose Bowl ring as well, right?
Yeah. That was Bo Schembechler's last game. A lot of people remember it. He tripped over the cords complaining about a call at the end, and I thought, wow, that's not a good way to end your storied career. But, Michigan, I always view the Rose Bowl, the most classic matchup, obviously, is USC-Michigan. I think a lot of people in the Midwest might think Ohio State, but my memory, there was just so many great USC-Michigan game. So I view that as the classic, Rose Bowl matchup.
How is it as an alumni now with the Michigan alumni? Is it a storied legacy, a storied rivalry, of course, but you guys are you jawing at each other all the time?
It's funny. I actually know a lot of Michigan guys, which kind of surprised me. Even in my building, I represent some guys, but there's
they pay higher rents.
I got to be honest with you. The Michigan and the UCLA guys, they seem to kind of keep it a little quiet. SC's on a tear right now. I think in the mid to late '90s, maybe the SC guys might have held back a little bit, but I don't like to rub it in too many. I mean, they
liar.
Hey, they're doing such a good job on the field. Guys like me don't need to open our mouths. We're dinosaurs.
So you got into commercial real estate, and you're with Madison Street Partners down in Orange County, focusing mostly on tenant representation.
Yep.
I got to ask you about what's happening on the commercial side. I mean, just of recent, we've been reporting about how the residential side of real estate has not just turned the corner, but is now in this explosive expansion. Not enough properties for sale. People submitting multiple offers. Everybody's scrambling all of a sudden. And is that happening on the commercial side, or is commercial real estate still hurting?
No, I think we've bottomed out. I don't think, unless you always hear these rumors about these banks holding back these, distressed loans that are on adjustable rates. If that's the case, I haven't seen it yet, but I mean, there's still really good deals out there. But yeah, I mean, especially in Orange County, I think we bottomed out. I think most of the landlords started retrenching. A lot of the big portfolios have traded. In my opinion, landlords are starting to dig their heels in and raise rates. There's different classes of properties when you're talking about office, industrial, and retail. A lot of the A properties are doing really, really well because in this downturn, I think people that used to be, paying C rents are now paying B rents. The B guys are now jumping in with the A guys. And so if you've got a, class A or B property, you're probably pretty good now. I agree with that. I think that just like the residential side, I think we're coming back. I don't think, we're racing back. And I think there's, like I said, you hear all these rumors about all these different things and the economy collapsing and stuff. But as far as what I'm seeing things heading back the other way, definitely.
What are your thoughts on a double dip? We talked about this in terms of there's a segment out there that believes that another correction is still around the corner because of the bank turmoil that we see.
I don't know. I mean, especially in Orange County where I specialize, I think there's so many strong, companies down there that I just don't see it. I think the Inland Empire is regrouping. I think our part of the country is I don't know. I hear about the double dip. I don't know. I don't know anything about the euro and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how that's going to affect us, but all I can tell you is I see a lot of companies doing really well, especially with the mortgage rates the way they are. There's a lot of absorption, a lot, buildings, that aren't as vacant, as they used to be. And I see people, buying. I see investors swooping in and buying properties. So, the double dip, I don't know. I don't have a, that's just not.
On the vacancy that you just mentioned, when we first moved into our building like 2 years ago, I was rolling in anytime between 9 and 10 o'clock, parking on the third or fourth floor, no problem. Now, if you don't get there by 8:30, you're up on the fifth and sixth floor, which it's got to tell you, there's people moving in now. The offices are taken.
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, like I said, in this market right now, we've got a lot of absorption. I think we've had 7 of the last 8 quarters of positive absorption. Industrial, is doing great. Retail's doing real strong. Just like I said, depending on the class of the property and where it's at.
Now, do you have a particular focus?
No, I mainly office, but I've got some of my largest clients are industrial and retail. So,
and with you mentioned one thing about portfolios trading. I didn't understand what that is.
So a lot of times when you've got a lot of these big, hedge funds or big REITs and stuff, they'll come in and they'll buy these properties. A lot of them, I have to throw names out, but like the McGuire properties, they would come in at the height of the market, spend $400 or $500 a foot on office buildings and multiple office buildings and business parks and all that kind of stuff.
Just planning money, right?
Yeah, planning money. And then when the downturn came, and then all of a sudden rents were getting cut in half by, maybe even 75%, those guys just went by the wayside. And so then you've got, the solvent investors come in, swooping in and buying those things. I mean, we've seen some significant trades in L.A., the Inland Empire, in Orange County, where guys, had to dump their, stuff they paid $400 a foot for, and now it's getting sold for $100, $150. And now, recently, going back up for in the high 2s and 3s. I mean, there's been some people, even in this downturn, and people with a lot more money than me, that have made a lot of money selling portfolios, meaning multiple, office high rises and business parks and industrial parks and even retail centers.
Do you mind if I jump in real quick? I just want to ask a question.
This is our producer, Phil Giangron, who I never pronounce your name correctly.
And no, but I'm still willing to come on, even though you butcher it all the time. I do want to ask, when you're looking for commercial properties, what are you looking for? Like, what makes a good, this is kind of basic, but what makes a good office space? What makes a good property?
Well, I mean, me personally, I'm just looking for a good deal. I mean, there's a lot of these big landlords that are kind of holding the line on prices, kind of like a monopoly. So a lot of times I'm going after, some of these one-off owners that are a little, they're a little more risk averse. They'll I can get a better deal with some of those people than some of these bigger landlords and stuff like that. I'm looking for distressed sales, guys that are struggling, bank sales and stuff like that. And we haven't, especially in Orange County, it didn't get hit as bad. It seems like foreclosures even now are all over the place, But in our world, in the commercial real estate in Southern California, there are a lot of them. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, they're just not as prevalent out there. So I'm hunting and looking for a lot of these. I got a few distressed sales in right now. I've sold a 100,000 foot office building to a mortgage company, about a couple months ago, and we got it at $99 a foot. I mean, replacement cost is, they bought it probably at 25 cents on the dollar. So, but they're just not everywhere. It's a little tougher to find them in the commercial side.
Is it the smaller landlords that are typically the distressed sellers, where they bought and financed, let's say at a 8 or 9 cap rate when things were strong? It goes down to a 4 cap rate with people not being able to make rents and whatnot, and they still have the financing.
Yeah, the small guy, I wouldn't say that, because, you've got some huge companies, like I mentioned, McGuire, and there's a bunch of others, but it just depends. I mean, the small guys, if they got it, they're usually the guys that run out of money the quickest. But no, I think it's across the board. I think there were small guys, medium-sized guys, and big guys buying, in 05, 06, 07, and those guys, anybody that, pulled title on those guys. And it's funny, when I'm negotiating a lease and I start getting kickback from guys and I can't close a transaction quickly, sure enough, I'll call our good friend Derek Graham, and I'll get some information back. Oh yeah, I see when they bought it. Yeah, that explains everything. They've got to, for me to, come in and lowball them on a rent, they've got to go talk to their own bank and say, hey, this guy wants $1.50 a foot, and the bank's saying, no, we need $2 to make our pro forma, so usually, finding out when they bought the building will tell you everything.
In case you just jumped into your car, you're listening to the Dino and Nelson Show here on K-Talk AM 1150. We can be reached at 888-814-3335. That's 888-814-3335. We're speaking with Mike Salmon from Madison Street Partners, and we'll be right back.
In a chaotic real estate market, you want peace of mind when it comes to the home you're purchasing. Roadrunner Exterminating, a family-owned and operated company providing structural repairs, local treatments, and fumigation. Roadrunner Exterminating is a licensed, bonded, and insured expert in termite, pest control, and general contracting. For fast and efficient service, plus the peace of mind of knowing the condition of your new home, call Roadrunner Exterminating at 866-398-BUGS. That's 866-398-BUGS. Or on the web at roadrunnerexterminating.com. As always, mention the Dino and Nelson Show and get a free home inspection. 866-398-BUGS or roadrunnerexterminating.com. General Contractor License 922404. Nominal fee for escrow inspections.
This is Nelson from the Dino and Nelson Show, and I want to tell you about one of our show partners, Efficient Services Escrow. As the name implies, Efficient Services Escrow provides lenders, realtors, home buyers, and sellers with fast, efficient, but most importantly, worry-free specialty escrow services. Dino and I know firsthand that real estate transactions can be complex and layered with areas of exposure for details to be handled incorrectly. The number one reason we work with Efficient Services Escrow is their seasoned veterans are reliable, proactive, and best of all, provide us worry-free escrow services. With any real estate sale, purchase, or refinance, call our trusted friends at Efficient Services Escrow, 949-208-9600. That's 949-208-9600, and let them know that Dino and Nelson sent you. Efficient Services Escrow at 949-208-9600 or online at efficientescrow.com. This is Nelson from the Dino and Nelson Show, and finally, a reputable legal firm. CDA Law Center, a nationally recognized nonprofit homeowner advocate, one of the most trusted firms in the country for helping consumers with their loan modification process. CDA's attorneys have decades of combined experience guiding their clients through the very complex and choppy waters of loan modification. Call 877-499-4435. 877-499-4435. Finally, honest and ethical advice to gain real results. Call CDA Law Center at 877-499-4435 or online at cdalawcenter.com. Are you frustrated with what sounds like all mortgage radio? Record low rates, rates may not be here for long, the biggest brain freeze in the history of mankind, call cash cow now, blah, blah, blah. Call First Centennial Mortgage and speak to Dino and Nelson direct. Guess what? We answer the phone. Market-leading rates that are guaranteed and our close-on-time guarantee. This week's rates plunged again. Our 30-year fixed rates are priced in the mid-threes for conforming loan amounts up to $625,000, and in the remarkable category of jumbo financing, up to $2 million, rates below 4%. Truly exceptional opportunities, guaranteed.
Market leading rates brought to you by Dino and Nelson from First Centennial Mortgage. They're not a call center. Call today and deal with Dino or Nelson direct at 888-814-3335. 888-814-3335. First Centennial Mortgage. Market leading rates, guaranteed. Call 888-814-3335 or text the word refi to 313131. First Centennial Mortgage. NMLS number 132763. All rates subject to change without notice. Ever been frustrated during a real estate transaction, wondering just when you'll receive that phone call or status about your title insurance or escrow? With Title 365, consumers like you gain unprecedented access to the status of their title insurance and escrow transactions in real time. Title 365 was created with all the benefits you'd expect, so it's never been easier to download your documents, see what's outstanding, post a question, or connect with all parties online. Ask your realtor, lender, or escrow officer about Title 365 today, or visit Title365.com.
The Dino and Nelson Show is brought to you by Best Chauffeured. Best Chauffeured offers personal chauffeur services for corporate events, large and small, and all types of people, not just celebrities. So next time you just want to relax and enjoy the ride, please call on Best Chauffeured Worldwide. It's effortless transportation and first-class service every time. Call 866-323-BEST. That's 866-323-BEST or online at bestchauffeured.com. Mention KTLK's Dino and Nelson Show and receive a special discount. 866-323-BEST or online at bestchauffeured.com.
Welcome back to the Dino and Nelson Show here on K-Talk AM 1150. We can be reached at 888-814-3335 or at dinoandnelson.com. We're back with Mike Salmon from Madison Street Partners.
Hey, Mike, I know this isn't your particular sector in the commercial side, but I read this just when I was diving a little bit deeper on the commercial side and was surprised to learn that California ranks number 5 as far as commercial construction. And Texas leading the charge in terms of total dollars that are deployed right now for new construction projects. In California, I just always assumed that anything related to real estate, that California is going to lead the charge, and they're not.
Yeah. A lot of people think California is overpriced. It doesn't surprise me. They're so big that they would be towards the top. But yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing a whole lot of construction. Financing's tough. So the dollars that are being spent, a lot of those guys must be really well collateralized. They probably don't owe money on the dirt, most likely. But yeah, a lot of people are trying to go, to cheaper areas because it's still expensive in California, even though we've come down quite a bit.
Do you see construction on the radar? Is it out there for new office space, or is it just absorbing all the vacancies that were created from this economy?
I'm not seeing much construction at all. And ironically, 2 days, or actually was it yesterday, I was with the head real estate forecaster for UBS. The guy came out from Manhattan, and he talked both residential and commercial, and he sees it pretty rocky for quite a while. I think in his terms, he said, we're not going to even see really a turnaround on that kind of stuff till like end of 2014. I quite honestly would agree with that. I mean, we're still trying to absorb everything we built during the roaring late 90s and 2000s. So yeah, I can't imagine construction. I think there are pockets of the country that are underserved, and Texas might be one of them, because it was pretty hard to lend in Texas years ago, and so I think they probably weren't as overbuilt, so they've got kind of a more normal attrition than the rest of the country.
Well, and I don't know why somebody would build when you can find in places for under the cost to rebuild it, right? Yeah, there's lots of places out there like that right now.
There's that misnomer on the residential side that banks simply aren't lending and people can't get financing. That's not true. I mean, we're in the mortgage business. We see people signing up for debt left and right, and so the rules have changed. You actually have to prove that you can do this crazy thing, pay it back. But on the commercial side, are the banks putting money out there?
Yeah, the banks are. People that have challenges, those are going to be more difficult. I tell people, if you're cookie cutter and you're trying to buy your own, the SBA financing is all over the place. You can get that at every bank. But if you got hiccups, you need to go to a broker of some type because, a lot of these banks, they'll get you, you'll put a building into escrow and then, they've got a hiccup. And if it does not fit in their little cookie cutter box, you're going to get thrown out, in my opinion.
So what would be a hiccup? I mean, Dino has a whole list of hiccups, as you would call them, but what are they?
Well, like for instance, I've got somebody in escrow right now. They could pay cash for the building. They really don't even need a loan. But years ago, back in 2005, her and her ex-husband went out and bought, 30 residential properties out in Lancaster, and they gave them all back to the bank. Now, me personally, I wouldn't mind loaning to somebody that could put 50% down and pay cash for it. But I mean, she got blown out of probably every bank she went into. So there's a brokerage firm out there that's going to probably hold it and season the loan. I mean, for probably 3 to 6 months, and then have to go sell it. But she's going to get charged a little bit higher.
Isn't that crazy? Putting 50% down and you can't get a loan.
Yeah. No, I mean, nowadays you got to prove you got to pay it back, but you got to prove that you didn't have any as you call hiccups over the last 3 years as well.
We go through this with the residential financing, and some of it is just flat out frustrating where it doesn't make sense. Just like in your example with this particular client, 50% loan to value, there's not a big risk factor, especially with interest rates that are financing that 50%. Those rates are going to make that property debt service very well. Mm-hmm. And yet we see on the residential side, people, they reflect what happened in the economy. Guess what? They lost jobs. They lost income. They lost the ability to pay back their debts. And so I wish there was just a way for the banking community at large to go, all right, we get it.
Well, common sense. If they could just bring back common sense underwriting, exactly. I think we can all move forward a little bit. And especially in the commercial field, if I was running a bank, this is like the old days right now. If you could step in and actually use a little common sense and say, this guy is our future. This guy is the guy who's going to be with us for a long time, but we need to support him now when nobody else is. And I think if the top guy at the bank could step in and actually, get involved, roll his sleeves up, he could actually meet the guy face to face, say, what is your business? What are your plans? And make that decision.
And by the way, you just said goodbye to any underwriting sponsors we might have had for the show.
That's okay. It drives me nuts when an underwriter just is, and right now underwriters are so afraid to lose their job that they won't sign off on anything that's just a millimeter outside of the box. Yeah. And it doesn't make any sense.
Way too rigid.
You're listening to the Dino and Nelson Show here on K-Talk AM 1150. We can be reached at 888-814-3335. And next we're going to be speaking to Nichole Story from Prudential California Realty. And hey, Mike, thanks for joining us on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, thank you. Nichole Story, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So Nichole Story is our real estate agent down in Corona Del Mar at California Prudential Real Estate, and she is the young hotshot. Is that fair to call you a hotshot?
Young hotshot.
Well, I'm on the radio, so you can't see me blushing, but I don't know.
We're on the radio. You can't see you slapping Dino's face for that comment.
No, Nichole and I have been doing business for a while, and she does a tremendous job as a real estate agent. Always takes care of her clients, and is one of those people that's just no nonsense, bulldog out in the field, and takes care of business.
I'd rather be called a hotshot than a bulldog. That's for sure.
Nichole, when we were talking with Mike Salmon from Madison Street Partners, we were talking a little bit about the commercial lending and the make sense element is stripped. We see it stripped out of the residential lending, and it's frustrating because you have people that just represent what happened to us in the recession. And I bring that up because you're in that space where multiple offers are being made.
Yes.
And people are competing, and it's now part of your job to have the sellers understand the merits of your particular offer.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're seeing a lot of multiple offers on properties. It just overnight, we went from, somewhat of a stagnant market to the market just being completely on fire. And we're seeing multiple offers on almost everything that's priced fairly. Even if it's a little overpriced, we're seeing multiple offers.
Do you have to promote the buyer?
You definitely have to promote the buyer, but as an agent, you have to be able to properly counsel the buyer in putting their best foot forward when they make their original offer. The days of putting in an offer well below market value and hoping that the seller will take it because they're desperate, I think those days are gone for now.
As a consumer, do they buy into that, or are they struggling with it?
Well, it's funny that you ask, because I think it was hard to counsel those consumers on their first offer or their second offer. But now that they're realizing that the first house they wanted is gone, the second house they wanted is gone, on their third offer, they're going to write their best offer. And so if we can sit them down and get them to understand that in the first place, they're going to have a lot better chance of getting the house that they really want.
And I think there's enough buzz on the street now, too, that everybody's going into this knowing that it's a hot market and knowing that they can't come in lowballing anything. Just doesn't work anymore.
Nope, it doesn't work.
Another challenge, and Nichole and I were talking about this on the way up with the lending activity and how congested it is. You have a huge refinance influx of activity. You have a home purchase market that's exploded overnight, and now you have all of these loans trying to squeeze through the funnel at the same time. And guess what? It's just taking longer. We were talking about how the 17-day loan contingency period, that's the standard language for the purchase contracts, it's setting yourself up for disaster in some cases where we just simply can't move that quick.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of times we'll even release all of the other contingencies except for the loan contingency. So we'll release inspection contingencies or, anything like that. Even the appraisal contingency we'll release. But a lot of times you don't want to put your client in the position where they're releasing that loan contingency until you know for sure that it's going to be a done deal.
So how is the seller side handling that?
The seller side, it's very interesting because, again, goes back to properly counseling the seller. If you're a strong agent and you can properly counsel your seller in that, hey, this is industry standard. You just can't get a loan, and you just can't have a loan approval within 17 days, and you really make your seller understand that before the offers start coming in. I think it's all about looking forward in these deals and making sure when you sit down with your seller at the time that you take the listing, you really properly counsel them and say, this is what you can expect when you get offers. And so this is not a shock to them when they get those offers. They already know.
Yeah, and I know in your case, actually, before, in a situation similar to that, you actually had me call the other person's loan agent just to drill them a little bit to make sure they were at least on the right path of getting a loan. Because it is. You're right. It's almost impossible right now to get a full loan approval within 17 days, but it doesn't mean they're not going to close. As a strong agent, you just have to know whether or not they're at least going down the right path.
Absolutely. And I think in this market, and really historically, it's all about managing expectations from the beginning. So there's no surprises for your client. Obviously, it's real estate. You're going to have these unexpected hurdles to jump over. But if you, at the beginning, can properly manage I think the transaction's going to be a lot smoother for both the buyer and the seller.
You've been listening to Nichole's story from Prudential California Realty and on the Dino and Nelson Show. We'll be right back after commercials, and we'll be back with Nichole, and she's going to actually help me out this time with the Stump Dino segment, where callers have sent us questions. The one in particular: should I purchase a home with my girlfriend, or should I that I'm not married to yet, but we are engaged? What is that a good idea or not?
Oh, I can't wait for that answer.
So let's see. We'll be right back.
This is Nelson from the Dino and Nelson Show, and I want to tell you about one of our show partners, Efficient Services Escrow. As the name implies, Efficient Services Escrow provides lenders, realtors, home buyers, and sellers with fast, efficient, but most importantly, worry-free specialty escrow services. Dino and I know firsthand that real estate transactions can be complex and layered with areas of exposure for details to be handled incorrectly. The number one reason we work with Efficient Services Escrow is their seasoned veterans are reliable, proactive, and best of all, provide us worry-free escrow services. With any real estate sale, purchase, or refinance, call our trusted friends at Efficient Services Escrow, 949-208-9600. That's 949-208-9600, and let them know that Dino and Nelson sent you. Efficient Services Escrow at 949-208-9600 or online at efficientescrow.com.
In a chaotic real estate market, you want peace of mind when it comes to the home you're purchasing. Roadrunner Exterminating, a family-owned and operated company providing structural repairs, local treatments, and fumigation. Roadrunner Exterminating is a licensed, bonded, and insured expert in termite, pest control, and general contracting. For fast and efficient service, plus the peace of mind of knowing the condition of your new home, call Roadrunner Exterminating at 866-398-BUGS. That's 866-398-BUGS. Or on the web at roadrunnerexterminating.com. As always, mention the Dino and Nelson Show and get a free home inspection. 866-398-BUGS or roadrunnerexterminating.com. General Contractor License 922404. Nominal fee for escrow inspections.
The Dino and Nelson Show is brought to you by Best Chauffeured. Best Chauffeured offers personal chauffeur services for corporate events, large and small, and all types of people, not just celebrities. So next time you just want to relax and enjoy the ride, please call on Best Chauffeured Worldwide. It's effortless transportation and first-class service every time. Call 866-323-BEST. That's 866-323-BEST or online at bestchauffeured.com. Mention KTLK's Dino and Nelson Show and receive a special discount. 866-323-BEST or online at bestchauffeured.com.
Ever been frustrated during a real estate transaction, wondering just when you'll receive that phone call or status about your title insurance or escrow? With Title 365, consumers like you gain unprecedented access to the status of their title insurance and escrow transactions in real time. Title 365 was created with all the benefits you'd expect, so it's never been easier to download your documents, see what's outstanding, post a question, or connect with all parties online. Ask your realtor, lender, or escrow officer about Title 365 today, or visit Title365.com.
This is Nelson from the Dino and Nelson Show, and finally, a reputable legal firm. CDA Law Center, a nationally recognized nonprofit homeowner advocate, one of the most trusted firms in the country for helping consumers with their loan modification process. CDA's attorneys have decades of combined experience guiding their clients through the very complex and choppy waters of loan modification. Call 877-499-4435. 877-499-4435. Finally, honest and ethical advice to gain real results. Call CDA Law Center at 877-499-4435 or online at cdalawcenter.com.
Welcome back to the Dino and Nelson Show here on K-Talk, AM 1150. We can be reached at 888-814-3335 or text the word refi to 313131. That's text the word refi to 313131.
So we have Nichole's story with us from Prudential California Realty. And Nichole, what you were talking about, I really like. You're talking about coaching your customers, whether that's your buyers or your people listing their homes for sale. You're giving them clear coaching and direction, and I think that's just a void in our marketplace, Dino, where agents, some agents simply haven't been trained to do that, or maybe they're a little timid.
Well, it reminds me a lot of the old days, actually, when everybody was in the business, and there was very few that actually knew what they were doing. The majority of them were part-timers, had no common sense whatsoever, no business sense, and really knew nothing about real estate.
And this is what I marvel about with Nichole's history. You're what, 7-8 years into the real estate profession, correct?
Yes.
And with that, she's training agents for Prudential.
She is. I actually went to one of her seminars one time where she trained the entire office on short sales, and she was quite impressive up on stage, I must say.
Yeah, it's definitely been a great opportunity for me to really connect with the agents at Prudential, and I've been very fortunate in the sense that a lot of them do refer business to me on hard to close transactions. So it's been a great source of business for me. But more than anything, I'm really committed to training these agents in this industry because I feel like there sometimes is a lack of professionalism or a lack of guiding clients, like you're saying, because they're scared to lose a deal. They're scared to lose a client, when in fact, if they just counseled the client correctly, they would probably get the deal done a lot faster, and they'd probably get more referrals from that client.
Do you find the gristled veterans that are the ones that are reluctant to change?
You know, actually, it's interesting because I think that the technology factor in the business, the fact that technology is really playing such a huge part in the business right now, is really forcing a change for agents, not only on the technology side, but just the way business is done in general. So I see the veterans are definitely changing with the market, which is great. And they know they have to if they want to keep selling houses.
So Nichole, here you are training people. Who trained you? How did you get like this?
Oh, well, I was very, very fortunate. My first 2 years in the business, I had the most amazing broker out of the Inland Empire who took me under her wing for 2 years and taught me everything she knew. So I was very fortunate in that. And that is something that with real estate companies in general, the training aspect is so important. So if it's a new agent getting into the business, I always strongly recommend that they go to a company that has a really strong mentor program or a really strong broker that can train them properly.
Now, you've worked with Nichole for a long time, and I just met her recently, but I can already tell one of the distinctives is that she has an opinion. There's a black and white of how to go about executing transactions, and it's not just in this varied shades of gray that causes a lot of problems, or the comment, don't worry about that, that'll be fine, and then all of a sudden that's the very issue that's imploding at the finish line.
That's why I called her a bulldog, because I have worked with her.
She didn't like that either.
She's like, okay, hot shot. I'll call her a hot shot.
So, Nichole, we're going to have you stay on for the Stump Dino. This is a segment where we're taking some comments made from the listeners on different scenarios. Dino is posed with the questions. I need you to help him because he's regularly stumped, just doesn't know. So, right out of this, let's hit you with this hot one that he talked about as we right before the break in Altadena. Boyfriend and girlfriend that are buying a home together. And the question is, I haven't proposed yet. Is this a good idea to buy real estate together?
Yeah, Nichole. What do you say?
Huh?
Well, you know.
And I'm curious what she's going to say because she is the female in the group here.
Yeah.
The good old-fashioned girl in me says that it would probably be a very smart idea to be married when you're purchasing a property. However, you know, in this day and age, there are some unconventional relationships, and that's a very good question, and I must defer to Dino.
Did I not just bill you as the one with an opinion?
I know.
That is
I'm sorry to
unbelievable.
disappoint.
All right, I have a very strong opinion. If you are not married and you guys are just boyfriend and girlfriend and you think you're going to spend the rest of your life together and you think everything is wonderful, do not buy a house with her until afterwards. Buy it. If you're the one putting all the money down, if you're the one qualifying, keep it that way. After you guys get married, then maybe put her on title, but do not.
Or him on title.
Or him on title. Yeah. Every once in a while you get that, but do not just throw that person on when you guys are dating. It doesn't work that way. You never know how it's going to work out. You're listening to the Dino and Nelson Show here on K-Talk AM 1150. We can be reached at 888-814-3335.
So this next question comes out of the commercial property sector. We don't know Mike could have answered this or not, but we've got Bill Bergschneider from USA National Title. Here's the question, Bill. In commercial property, it seems that many, if not most, properties are held by entities or partnerships or LLCs, not a person or a group of people. So how does anyone know what to ask for when there are restrictions in purchasing?
Good question again, guys. So you have several different entities. You've got partnerships, which consist of general or limited partnerships. You've got corporations. You've got limited liability companies. So a little different for each entity. A partnership is created by its partnership agreement. If it's a general, you're going to look at that partnership agreement and any amendments that get submitted through ESCO to the title company to review, so we know who the signing partner is, who the general partner is that can actually sign on their behalf. With a limited partnership, they actually file a form with the Secretary of State. Again, it's down to the general partner. With the corporation, you've got corporate resolutions, articles of incorporation that define who can do what. That's what we look for. And then an LLC, you've got the LLC-1, which is filed. That's the articles of organization or an operating agreement. Your title company looks at all this stuff, examines this, and makes sure that not just the purchase contract, but the grant deed itself is being signed by the right party.
And that was my question. Who signs these deals? Because on the residential side, we're not lending to entities or corporations. The banks want to lend to individuals and be able to go after them if they don't pay it back, as opposed to chasing after a corporation.
Absolutely. Yeah, the lending guidelines when it comes to buyers that are in entities are completely different. They qualify the entities. Sometimes they'll bind in an LLC, they may ask that the managing members of the LLC or even the limited members of the LLC bind that loan as well. So they look at the LLCs. It seems to be the most common entity these days, or a corp. They're going to look at the articles, see who the members are made of and what qualifies them. They also we compare that against what's filed with the Secretary of State. Gets a little more complicated when it's an out-of-state entity, but they just simply have to be qualified to do business in the state that they are doing business in.
Hey, Bill, thank you. I knew we could count on you. This is Bill Bergschneider from USA National Title. Thank you.
Thank you.
So out of Lemon Heights, get this. Purchasing a short sale. This is a home buyer that's purchasing a short sale. Previous owner took out all the toilets. I don't know if you've run into this, Nichole. And the bank is saying, we're not going to close the transaction until there's something to flush. What do you do?
You go to Home Depot, you pick up the cheapest toilet you can get, and you put it in there.
Would you do that before you own the home?
It's a tough call because the bank will not lend. And in theory, the seller is the one that's supposed to be doing it. Seller a lot of times doesn't have money, or maybe there is no seller really. There's the bank.
Just the banking
and
entity.
The bank is saying we're not going to put a dime into this. So does let me ask you, Nichole, does the listing agent ever just go to Home Depot, pick up a few toilets and drop them in?
Definitely. I mean, as a listing agent on a property like that, sometimes you're expected to go the extra mile and, pick up some toilets.
Redefining a full service real estate professional. So let me ask you this question, Nichole, and I'm going to skip right over to, he has no idea. Out of Ventura, somebody's buying a home. They've spoken to two agents. The two agents have come back and presented the exact same property. How do they choose which agent to actually write the offer with?
Well, which agent do they feel is counseling them the best?
And so it just comes down to the best direction, the feel that you have in terms of going through the contractual points.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of buyers realize how important those contracts really are. And a lot of buyers realize that, you're putting your savings, your home, everything on the line. So the real estate professional you choose at the end of the day is just as important as the home you choose. And
on the agent side, you've been in that situation. You got to be territorial. Hey, this is my client.
Absolutely. However, that's the name of the game. I mean, you have to know what you're doing. You have to be aggressive in this business. And so, obviously sometimes people lose clients, but usually the best realtor for that client wins.
All right. So out of Long Beach, Dino, get this. This is a situation that we always hear. My mom passed, left the property to four brothers and myself. We can't agree on anything. We want to sell the property. I don't even trust one of the brothers. I think he's going to take advantage of me. What do you do?
Well, I mean, that's obviously a personal problem. And that's why I think as parents, you need to do a good job with having a trust, a will, and setting up everything properly so the kids don't have to be in a situation like that. which actually what we should do is bring on our trust attorney to talk about that. That would be a great topic one day.
We'll get that scheduled. I think that's where people get stuck, and there is those kind of family dynamics that are difficult to work through.
And if you are stuck in a situation like that, give us a call. We can refer you to the right people. This is Dino and my buddy Nelson here on the Dino and Nelson Show here on K-Talk, AM 1150. We can be heard every weekend afternoon, and we can be reached at 888-814-3335 or at dinoandnelson.com. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Are you frustrated with what sounds like all mortgage radio? Record low rates? Rates may not be here for long. The biggest brain freeze in the history of mankind? Call Cash Cow now? Blah, blah, blah. Call First Centennial Mortgage and speak to Dino and Nelson direct. Guess what? We answer the phone. Market-leading rates that are guaranteed and our close-on-time guarantee. This week's rates plunged again. Our 30-year fixed rates are priced in the mid-threes for conforming loan amounts up to $625,000. And in the remarkable category of jumbo financing, up to $2 million, rates below 4%. Truly exceptional opportunities, guaranteed.
Market leading rates brought to you by Dino and Nelson from First Centennial Mortgage. They're not a call center. Call today and deal with Dino or Nelson direct at 888-814-3335. 888-814-3335. First Centennial Mortgage. Market leading rates, guaranteed. Call 888-814-3335 or text the word refi to 313131. First Centennial Mortgage. NMLS number 132763. All rates subject to change without notice.